fast market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. Let's bring in Landon Swan. He's a co-founder at LikeFolio. Thanks for joining us, Landon.
Thank you, Tom. Hey, Kevin. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Happy Schwab Network Day today here. Landon, I kind of wanted to hit on Dick's Sporting Goods. Kevin mentioned when we were off camera, he was in a Dick's Sporting Goods like a week before school started up here, and he said it was like Christmas. And the stock's done pretty well this year. Do you guys have the data to back up these moves that we've seen?
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, we've got pretty much nothing but positive data when it comes to Dick's Sporting Goods and just the sector in general. When you look at, first of all, back to school shopping, just overall, we've got data showing that when we look at the average spend per household on back to school shopping, it's not only up 3% year over year, it's at all-time highs, of course, but it's also up about over 20% from 2019. So very significant numbers when you look at the jump that happened after COVID, how much people are spending on back-to-school shopping. And of course, that goes far beyond just, clothes and school supplies. It also gets into sports as well. On their last earnings call, Dick's talked about how team sports and health and wellness has become a very high priority for people. It's kind of moving from from discretionary to essential, right? I mean, this is something that is critical to people. And if your kid plays sports, you got to get them the latest and greatest equipment. They've got to be ready to play those sports. And I think that in general, when it comes to prioritizing things, when it comes to for families, I think that team sports are probably taking a front seat to vacations. I mean, you've got to have that. That's right up there with school supplies. And so they're doing well there. When you look at the total web visits for Dick's Sporting Goods, it's up about 22% year over year. Golf Galaxy's up 19% year over year. And when you actually compare that to some of their competitors, they're doing much better. Hibbett and Academy are both single digits, I think 1% and 3% each. So not doing well there, but Dick's is leading the way. In fact, they're getting higher now in the back to school season. You can see tremendously higher than they were last year, but then even higher than the sort of that Christmas and beginning of the year season, which has traditionally been very high for them. So this is really good signs for the company. Everything that we're seeing is showing that sales are likely growing, even though discretionary spending is getting some pressure. Again, I think that they're kind of moving out of discretionary. Health and wellness and team sports are becoming a very high priority for people. So what we've got on Dick's is all very positive. Now, you look at the stock and it's riding right up against that sort of $150 mark that it's had trouble with for quite a long time. So I would really like it much better at 140 or so than where it's at right now. I wish it would have a little bit of a pullback before earnings. But if you're going to force me to take a side, I'm definitely taking the bullish side.
Landon, their advertisement saying every season starts at Dick's might be the truest words that hit parents right in the soul, because the spending that you do preseason, if your kid plays multiple sports or club sports or are growing, you've got to constantly replenish. And they're they don't just sell clothes, they sell equipment. They sell baseball bats and mitts and hockey sticks and gear and football cleats. I mean, the swarms of people in there in mid August was incredible in terms of how many people I saw. The lines were like Christmas. That's how long you had to wait to check out. Now, that being said, you're right. There's something interesting about this stock, how it bumps up against the 150, 152 level and stops dead. What does that mean eventually? Well, look at their PE at 12.5. It's relatively low. They've got momentum in their brand. Ever since Sports Authority went out of business, they've become like a one-stop shop in a lot of the parts of the Midwest. They've got how about this? They've lowered their diluted share by 10% in the last year. They bought back a ton of stock. Their dividend is 2.7%. If they pay it, it's never guaranteed. But the dividend is good. The PE is low. Why isn't this stock going to break out, Landon?
I wish I had an argument. I mean, it seems to me undervalued, even though it has run up against that 150 mark. That's the only thing. It's just technicals. That's the only thing that gives me a pause. And I'm not a huge believer in technicals. I think that, everything that we've got, there's a rising tide. They're the winner among their competitors. People are shopping there more. It's a good business model. They just hiked their dividend, not too long ago, doubled it. They've got their rewards programs doing really well. They've got 150 million people into that. So all in all, I think this company is very strong. I mean, honestly, our score on this it's only plus 22. I say only because everything that, anecdotally you look at it, you would think it's a much higher score. I think the stock running up has a little bit to do with that, but we're still bullish on this one. And I would be very comfortable having, this being one of my main positions in my portfolio. So they just produce cash. And like you said, every season starts at Dick's. I love that because if your kids play sports, you gotta give them the opportunity to have the best equipment. And the thing about kids is they grow every year. You gotta buy new shoes. You gotta buy the bigger glove, the bigger racket, the bigger bat, whatever it is. Every year you gotta buy a new thing. It's incredible. I'm kind of thankful that my kid's main sport is basketball because that's just shoes pretty much, But if you kids play hockey or golf or baseball, you gotta buy stuff every year. It just keeps getting more and more expensive. It's unbelievable. And that's all going to go to the top and bottom lines of Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
3 kids, travel hockey. 3 kids. Yeah.
I only had one, but when I look at it, I'm buying a new golf club. It doesn't bring my score down ever, Landon. I got to take that into consideration. Stop wasting money. But when you look at this, and sometimes you guys talk about happiness levels in some of your data. There's really no competitor to them anymore. So it's pretty difficult for you guys to have happiness levels, but is Dick's pretty good as far as maybe the data that you have on it due to the fact that you guys are plus 22 going into earnings?
Yeah, it is. It's strong happiness. The only time we ever saw Dick's really dip on happiness was around the supply chain issues. And I remember going to stores and there was like 3 basketballs on the shelves, and we're trying to, get geared up for the season. I was just like, oh my God, there should be 500, but there's 3. And that was the only time I've ever seen their happiness decrease. And that was, again, it was just inventory issues. They didn't have what they needed. But ever since then, that was just a blip on the radar. Ever since then, we've seen only strong happiness levels out of this company. So very happy to see it. And Tom, as far as the golf clubs go, it may not improve your score, but it might improve your score. When you're buying it, you got that hope. And that's what you're buying. You're buying hope. It's like a lottery ticket. You never know. That might fix your score. So keep going and buying those clubs.
By the way, they own Golf Galaxy. Is owned by Dick's.
Exactly. Yeah, my ping driver's working out well for me this year. I gotta admit that. Finally get a club that works for me. All right, Landon, appreciate it. Thanks for the data. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio, breaking down the data for us here on Dick's Sporting Goods. Kevin, we talk about this every quarter that we look at this for an example trade.